Welcome to the SEM podcast. It is July 4th weekend. Kids, be safe with fireworks. They will blow stuff off your fingers. Just ask some of the ex-football players that effed around and found out. How you boys doing today, man? I'm glad to be back.
Just fine, Don Wayne. Glad to have you back, brother.
Doing good, Don. How you feeling, buddy? You okay?
Yeah, I'm feeling pretty good. Last week, gotta go through some. The older you get, the more shit they want to run on you and test you out. And I'm at that age where they want to probe and prod and check you out. And how's your oil? And then here's your vinegar. So I'm there, man.
Oil and vinegar. There you go.
Oil and vinegar. It was
the makings of a nice salad.
So we've had a lot of wrestling stuff going on here. A lot of old school stuff the last couple of weeks. I mean, I know you guys had a great guest. I'd like to give her a shout out again from last week, Pampero Purpo's daughter. Amazing. I watched the whole thing, or at least as much as I could. She is a encyclopedia of old school knowledge, and I'm so glad she came on the show.
Yes,
absolutely.
It was very good. Yeah.
I was going to start off today because I just don't know that I can wash the taste out of my mouth of the current wrestling product this week. I watched a lot of average to bad wrestling shows, and I think I want to start off with some Dark Side of the Ring stuff because that was at least palpable to me. What do you guys say?
I think that's a good way to go. Let's start with that. What do you think, Butter?
100%, man. Both the programs that I just saw recently, excellent. Let's hit those up, Don.
And I know, Motor, you were telling us once you saw the Doink the Clown Dark Side of the Ring, it got you to go back and start looking at a whole bunch of his old matches, man. What stood out to you from watching those old Doink the Clown matches and the crazy mess he pulled?
Well, after, just from what they showed on that program, and I saw Matt Bourne early on when I lived in Portland and knew he was a real tough SOB up there as well, And I kept thinking to myself, I'm like, Doink, I never really, I saw him more as a gimmick and not just watched him actually wrestle. But when I went back and looked and started watching videos from 93, 94 WWF when Raw was just coming out and stuff, I was like, man, I missed a lot of stuff at that time, realizing how good he was as Doink the Clown and just being Matt Bourne because, Maniac Matt Bourne up in Portland, there's a reason why he got that name. The guy was, he was kind of off the hook and skilled wrestler, tough guy, legitimate tough guy. And so I started watching a bunch of old clips of Doink, even his squash matches. Beautiful. I totally forgot about how good he was as that first rendition of Doink.
Bottles, what'd you think? I know you're an old school guy. You saw a bunch of his matches when he was in WCW. I never bought his gimmick in WCW. When he got to WWE, I didn't even know he was the same guy. I mean, I didn't know who was under that mask. I didn't care. I was enjoying it for what it was. And tell me if my microphone's too loud. Like I told him earlier, Bottles, I got a new microphone. I'm trying something out. So if it doesn't work, I got to figure out the volume here.
I think you need to turn the volume up a little bit.
Oh, all right.
What do you think, Motor?
Well, right now I can hear him pretty good, but if they turn it up, crank it up, man. We're old school guys. Our ears are half blown out. Being metal bands, go hit it.
I just don't want it to smash. Get that distortion feedback. But what do you think, Johnny Bottles?
I think that Matt Bourne was a true talent. The guy was incredible. He could do chain wrestling if it came down to it. He could do old school heel wrestling. He could be a baby face. He could be a heel. That's how complex he was. If you think about it, as Big Josh in WCW, I guess the gimmick was a lumberjack. I mean, one pay-per-view, I believe, or one of those Clash of the Champions free things they had on TBS. He came out with two bears. Remember that? The bears had muzzles on them. And he's walking him to the ring. Of course, he had the handler right there on the side. So, he doesn't get his arm bitten off or his face ripped off. But he was walking the two bears down to the ring. And people were going crazy when he was Big Josh. And he even did did he do a log roll as one of his moves? Where the guy was like laying on his stomach and he would stand on his back and do a log roll.
Oh,
something
yeah.
Like that.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah. Like a lumberjack would. Yeah, it wasn't a gimmick that had legs. The Doink the Clown gimmick had legs, where he came out as an evil clown. If you remember when he came to the ring as Doink the Clown, For weeks, they didn't announce who he was. He was at ringside and walking, down the ramp, and he would have like a bucket of. You would think he had a bucket of water. It was confetti. He would tease the kids, and he had a dummy arm. They would go to shake hands with the kids, and they would pull his arm off, and he'd go, "Whoops," like that. And he would actually play to the children. So you figure, they got their own clown now because it is a freaking circus. The WWE was at that time. They got their own clown, so this could be cool. Who knows? Where are they going with this? Who is this guy? Of course, if you read the Meltzer rags like I did back in the day, I was a subscription-carrying schmuck who paid money for Dave Meltzer. We didn't have the internet back then, guys, so we had to do whatever we could. So I wanted to find out what was going on. I subscribed to Meltzer. I think it was like $5 a week or $5 a month.
Probably a month back then, yeah.
That's how cheap it was back then, yeah.
Yeah.
So we didn't know where that little gimmick was going after about 3 weeks. Then he had a match. He had a match against a jobber. And he did a lot of chain wrestling. He sort of wrestled as a face. Then he turned heel. At the end of the match, he used some dirty tactics. And you realize where he was going. The grease paint was dripping off his face, and he had that crazed smile. And, man, this is pretty cool. That's what I thought. I thought it was a pretty good gimmick.
From my perspective, when he first came into WWE, I was probably 13 years old or so, and I was like, this is kind of a weak gimmick. You're going to have a clown out here. And the more it carried on, the more I thought, this bastard is evil. He's just mean for no reason. And sometimes he'd have the water, and sometimes it was confetti, and you never knew what he was going to throw at you. And the more I got involved with the gimmick, the more I loved. The one match that I think stands out in everybody's brain from his entire run was the Crush match at WrestleMania, where the second Doink appeared, and they had the mirror finish that they were mimicking moves. That, to me, I don't care if it was 10 years ago or 20 years in the future, that was amazing to watch and mesmerized me as a fan. Watching this evil clown beat one of the guys I loved in the ring, and then having his double come out. 2 clowns? We got 2 clowns?
Which was Steve Kern, correct?
Steve Kern.
Yeah.
Yes. Steve Kern. And little did Doink realize that they were grooming his replacement by bringing in Steve Kern.
Right.
Because they couldn't count on him showing up. He was missing dates, the drug problem, passing out in the locker room, that sort of thing. It wasn't good at all.
Yeah, so as the dark side progressed, you got to see more and more of what he was like. It talked about the fight with B. Brian Blair that kind of blew my hair back a little bit, if you will, where B. Brian Blair, had not 1, not 2, but 3 fights in the same bar with the same guy that just refused to take defeat by another man and was trying to claw his eyeballs out. I don't know about you, man, but if you're fighting somebody like that, you're never going to win if they're just going to keep coming and come to tactics after they've had their ass whipped to try to blind you. Leave the bar. It's time to go somewhere else. He's just looking for a fight, and it didn't matter who it was.
Not good at all. Not good at all. Good. That character of Doink the Clown would be the closest approximation we would ever have in professional wrestling to the comic book character, the Joker.
True.
Now think about it.
Without a doubt.
You could still revive, if anybody's watching from a major company, you could still revive that character today. You could call him Zoink the Clown. Have him be the son of the original Doink. Have him come out in a suit, a purple suit with the headgear, with the mask. And he didn't have, it was actually a wig attached to a chin strap so it wouldn't come off.
Right.
And then this was all exposed here. And that's what he painted it.
So not to ruin your gimmick, but we already got 1 clown in AEW, Orange Cassidy. I'm not trying to see another one on my screen right now. That's just me personally.
I'm sorry, I forgot, Don. Maybe I had too many of these. Maybe I forgot. It's the sun beating down on me.
So as the show progressed, Motor mentioned it to me about the junkyard dog fight. The fight with Hacksaw Jim Duggan. I'd never seen that video in my life.
I've seen it.
You're watching it in live time for the first time, watching the Dark Side of the Ring, and everybody started talking about Hacksaw. That if you had a problem with Hacksaw, you just weren't a good person. Like Hacksaw Jim Duggan is apparently behind the scenes one of the nicest human beings you can meet. Yeah. And out of nowhere, this idiot Matt Bourne decides, I think I'm going to start a shoot fight with one of the nicest people in wrestling because I have no common damn sense.
Well, I don't think it's the fact that he didn't have any common sense. I think the fact that he was drunk or high. I think that's what it was. How many times have you had a good friend that you met at the bar and you were with them for a few hours at the bar and you start talking to other people and you come back to your friend and he's trashed and he wants to take on the world. Somebody pissed him off and he wants to take on the world. Then he gets mad at you for talking to him and trying to calm him down. That's the equivalent, I think, of that little meeting they had in the ring. Because who doesn't love, like you said, who doesn't love Hacksaw? Everybody loves Hacksaw Jim Duggan.
Yeah.
You know? And it was the beginning of the end for him. I mean,
then the end happened. And the way
the end happened
to me to where the neighbor drags him in from the yard, drugged and drunked out of his mind. And then, I understand losing a parent is hard, but the daughter to be accusing the girlfriend or soon-to-be wife of murdering him at the end of that, when there were conflicting reports everywhere saying she did call the ambulance right away. They're saying she went back to bed for 3 hours. Like, the bottom line is that the dude was a drug addict, drank and drugged himself to death. And, she's having I think it's a real junk thing she's doing, trying to throw accusations like that, man. That's just, your dad was an addict. I'm sorry it ended that way, but it ended that way. And you need to deal and cope and move on.
Well, she lost her dad. She loved her dad. So she's lashing out, and that's the person she can lash out on. That woman, the woman he was living with. Were they married? I
don't remember that. I think they were dating.
Yeah, that's what I think, too. I think they were married.
What would she have to gain by killing a down on his luck former WWE professional wrestler?
It sure wasn't money. I'll tell you that right now, because
he didn't have
anything. I married him for his money. What money? He squandered a whole bunch of it already, missing shows, not making appearances, that type of stuff, leaving midway through shows. So it wasn't for the money. Easily, it wasn't for the money.
Well, he had to get high, so he probably booked out of the shows because he had to do it. He probably couldn't do it in the locker room, so it's a shame. But his daughter's got a set of balls on her. I gotta admit that. She's got some cojones to go ahead and cue somebody on national television. And Vice is considered national television. I know it's a lower tier cable network with some good content, but for her to accuse somebody of murder on national TV and no lawsuit filed, come on, man. What's going on there?
No lawsuit yet. I mean, it just aired, so I wouldn't put anything past getting sued now. I know I'd be calling you knew right about now.
Someone will get a hold of him. Yeah.
So then we moved on to, and this is the other one that came up, was the next dark side of the ring, which was about one of our favorites, was Junkyard Dog. And I can tell you, and I'm going to tell you my own little personal experience, was the first wrestling match I ever went to in my entire life was at the Salt Lake City Palace or Coliseum, whatever it was at the time, in like 1986. And the match was Junkyard Dog versus the then Intercontinental Champion, Randy Macho Man Savage. And I'm sitting here, the whole thing was entertaining as hell. But the ending of the match to this day, I've never seen the finish again. The Macho Man has his feet on the ropes. The ref can't see it. And he's pinning JYD. And JYD bench presses Randy Macho Man Savage off of him, but his shoulders never left the damn mat. And the ref counted 1, 2, 3. And as a 10-year-old kid, I'm like, what the hell just happened? How did he lose? He's bench pressing the man. I've never seen that finish to this day. It was amazing. Why don't we see stuff like that? Anyway, that was my first time ever seeing him. What about you, Motor?
First time for me with the dog was old tapes of Mid-South. And this is before he started getting a little heavier and such. And he was teamed up at that time with Hacksaw Jim Duggan. And it was DiBiase and then Hacksaw Jim Duggan. This is before all the stuff went down. I saw a clip of him, and that's when he came out to the arena, and they started playing Another One Bites the Dust. And the crowd, you could hear it, just electric, just like boom. I mean, I'm like, who is this guy? And then I see him come out there, and he's got the trunks on, and he's got the chain around his neck with the collar and stuff, and he rolls in there. I'm like, this guy. And the one thing I noticed really about him when he was wrestling is like when he body slams somebody, the thump slam, like he didn't just do the tech. He actually picked you up and threw you onto the damn mat. You know, the dude was so strong, and you could see it in his moves. And, you know, he may not have been a technical wrestler, which we all know, but what he did in the ring and how he did it and the way he worked his matches fit him so perfectly, so perfectly. And then next time, of course, was WWF when he was, you know, bigger than life. And hey, see, I still got my JYD guy, still here from back in the day. One of my all-time favorite wrestlers, man. He was so cool. Like when he did the interviews, when you heard him talk, and he had that voice, and it was all sweet, baby. And he had that really deep voice, and it was like, dang, this guy's got it. And he'd come out there with the sunglasses, had the shirt on tight. He was all yoked up with the chains around his neck, you know, the necklaces. He was, and I think I've said this before, the man was swagger before I think even swagger was a term. He just had it. He had it, the microphone skills, the in-ring persona, and the fans loved him. Everybody loved him. And you know, it didn't matter what color you were. You know, it didn't matter where you came from. If you watched the dog, everybody loved the dog. Everybody loved the dog.
Who did he wrestle the first time you saw him? You remember?
The first time in one of the Mid-South tapes, you know what? I can't even remember who it was, but I know it was a dude with the mask. I will say that. And Junkyard Dog kicked the living crap out of him. That's for damn sure.
Well, that's Mr. Wrestling too, then.
Yeah.
What about you, Bottles?
The first time I saw the Junkyard Dog, he was in the NWA, and he was doing a Bob Caudle. Remember Bob Caudle? Caudle. Yeah. Little guy, bad black toupee, glasses. He must have been about 55 back then, and he was the interviewer, and he's interviewing Jim Cornette. No, he was interviewing the Junkyard Dog, and it got as far as, hey, Bob, how you doing? And then Jim Cornette came in and issued a challenge to the Junkyard Dog. He says, "You're looking for trouble? You find me anytime, any place." He goes, "Well, you be here such a night." "I'm not going to be here that night. I'm going to be at 1014 Blossom Hill Road." And he walked away. And Cornette goes, "Oh." Bob Caudle goes, "What's 1014 Blossom Hill Road?" "That's my mama's house."
That's
and I'm thinking,
great.
Who is this guy? Junkyard Dog. So I had to do a little research, see some of his matches. You couldn't check it out on YouTube. There was no YouTube back then. You had to go in the After magazines. They were our YouTube.
Yeah.
Pro Wrestling Illustrated. What was the other ones? Oh my God, I can't. There were so many that he would put
was
out.
the big one back then. Pro Wrestling Illustrated was the magazine to get. There was also Ring Magazine, which had some of the stuff on it.
Yeah.
But PWI was the main source to see when I was younger. That's the only magazine I read when it came to wrestling.
What brand of magazines, wrestling magazines, was the After magazines where there's always a guy busted open with blood all over his face?
That's him. Yeah.
Yep, that's it. Those are the ones that grab at the grocery stores. Yes, those are the ones you'd walk in there and be like, "Oh, dude, there's Dusty Rhodes busted open," or so. You know, it's like, "Yep, I'm getting Mom. Can I get this magazine? Thank you."
There were a couple of things in his dark side.
That's terrible.
There were a couple things in his dark side I didn't know, and I don't know if you guys knew it either. Did you know Tony Atlas was a JYD groupie? He was a Klingon, just
I had
picking
no
up all the
idea.
spare chicks that he wasn't taking back to the room. What the hell?
If you believe that.
Just getting
kicked
in the face back then.
If you believe that, I think Tony Atlas is these guys who do Dark Side of the Ring have a small subset of wrestlers that they interview that want to put themselves over, and they retroactively insert themselves into the story. And I think that's what Tony Atlas is indeed doing. I mean, if you talk to Tony Atlas, he knew every black wrestler on the planet. And he was around in the locker room with every black wrestler on the planet. Tony Atlas.
I just know my man's got a thing for feet, and if you saw
he does
the
have
video,
a thing for feet.
If you saw the video,
Yeah, he does.
kicked in
He
the
does have a
face
thing
by
for
a
feet.
woman, all I could think was, dude, your heart tiles, baby.
Did you?
He would
see
pay
that
women.
video?
He would pay rats
Yeah.
to walk on his face barefoot. He would snort coke on the floor of a hotel room and have the ring rats walk on his face. I like feet, but I don't like
Oh,
feet that much. And I guarantee they all weren't under 100 pounds.
uh,
Tony impresses me as Tony Atlas impresses me as taking on all comers, if you know what I'm saying.
Who was the coach for the Jets? The guy for the Jets, his wife was a foot model.
oh,
Oh my God, he was the defensive coordinator for the Ravens. And then he went to the Jets.
Yeah.
Buddy Ryan's son. Rex Ryan.
there it is.
That guy,
Rex Ryan was the guy.
he needs to talk
He
to
had a
Tony
foot
Atlas.
fetish.
They got a lot in common.
Yeah,
They might find
Well, they
some
double date together.
familiar ground footing, if you will.
Oh my
probably at the bar
word.
right now.
So then
They're probably at the bar right now drinking champagne out of a pair of high heels. Because that's what Atlas used to do. He would drink champagne out of their shoes. They'd walk on his face, and then they would later have to take both feet and how can I put this? Fellas, you ever milk a chicken? Let's not go there. Let's not go that way.
No.
Let's not go that way. This is a PG podcast, fellas. Let's not.
So in 1984,
but Tony Atlas liked women to do things with their feet to him. If you get the idea,
I see it. So JYD leaves in '84 for double the money he was getting in Mid-South, and I think honestly it killed the territory in the Mid-South. It was never the same after that. Soon after Jim Cornette and his whole team was leaving, they were headed up north. The Florida connection was headed up to Jim Crockett. And I think JYD started the landslide that was the inevitable collapse of the Mid-South wrestling territory. And he goes to WWF for double the money. And I don't know that anybody can blame him for taking that much of a price increase. But here was the issue that I had was, for some reason, he thought he was going to be Hulk Hogan. And they had a couple of clips with them in the ring back then together. And if you see the size difference, it's back then the WWF was the land of the giants. Getting over from like 84 to 88, you had to be a monster-sized wrestler. The Big John Studs, the Andre the Giants, the King Kong Bundys. You had to be a monster. And in that 2-year period from 84 to 86, his body, you could tell, was just, he had stopped training as much. You could tell the drugs were already taking effect. And when did they say he was out? By like 88, 89, he was out altogether?
From there, yeah, he was already gone. And then he resurfaced a few years after that, a couple different shows. And one of the last shows he did was an independent show, I believe, in 1994. 94, 95, don't quote me. And the people that were there saw him, and he came out and he wrestled for 2 minutes, got his money, and then left the place. And anyone that saw him there said he was a shell of himself, didn't look the same. You could tell everything, the road, the drugs, the alcohol had already caught up with him so bad. And yeah, that was it for JYD. And he had, I mean, you think about it as what a good 10-year span, about 10 years where he was riding that gravy train with biscuit wheels. You know, he had the money, he had everything, he had the same. What's that?
And just fell apart. He totally fell apart, man.
Completely fell apart.
Some people make too much money. Some people too much fame, too much fortune, and they don't know how to handle it, and they make wrong turns down different side roads to get to where they want to be, and that's what he did with the addiction.
I was going to ask you, Bottles. I was going to ask you, do you remember his WCW run and how bad it all looked?
It was terrible. It was terrible. They had him go against he actually wrestled Mark Calloway. Mark Calloway, when he debuted in WCW. Hang on a second. Clash of the Champions. He got into it with the Russian Assassins and Ivan Koloff, if you remember the Russian Assassins.
Yeah.
And then he teamed with Ivan Koloff and then Michael Hayes against the Russian Assassins. Apparently, Ivan Koloff, the Russian Assassins turned on him because he was their mentor. And then he turned face and teamed with the JYD. Because how are you gonna get a guy over as a face? Put him with the Junkyard Dog. Everybody loves him. That's what you do. And that's what happened. He actually wrestled Ric Flair.
Did he really?
for the World Heavyweight Championship on house shows. And they defeated Flair by DQ when the Clash of the Champions 11. And then it all went downhill after that. He was wrestling Dr. X, Dutch Mantel, Buddy Landell, the Master Blaster. Remember that guy?
Yep. Yeah.
It was the Master Blasters were Kevin Nash and Al. The guy's now he's dead. I forgot his last name.
Big dude too, huge yoke guy.
Yeah, he was muscular.
Yeah, he was. We looked him up the other day. I can't remember his name either because he had like 40 different in-ring names. He was like 5'10", 6 foot tall, but he was 260 pounds, just blown up out of his mind, roided off his brain.
When Nash was in his last run in WCW, when he was in the NWO, the Wolfpack, and all that, they brought this guy in, Al, whatever his name was. They called him the Dog, and they let him in. He had a dog collar around his neck, ironically enough, and let him in with a chain. The guy was doing that. He didn't do it. He never said any words. He just growled. But he was a good friend of Kevin Nash. That's how he got the gig. And then, he did a minor run in WCW after he feuded with Flair, and then he worked the independent circuit from 94 to 98 until he passed away. He died in 98.
Yeah, I know.
Dead for 25 years. I couldn't believe that when I saw those figures. But
the one part
it's been that long.
The one part about the dark side of the ring that really grabbed me and said, wow, what the hell, was when they had the actor getting into what looked like a tiny little vehicle. And his nephew commented on the time that he had no business being a man that size getting into a little car like that. And then tragically he dies that night. And that was the part of the show that like really grabbed my attention was the detail that they put into that moment, that he was driving this 330-pound man at the time was driving this bitty car that he could barely even fit behind the steering wheel, man. Just sad.
With vomit all down the inside of the driver's side door.
Yeah.
All
inside
the door. Yep. He said he got sick and then just headed down the highway and fell asleep. Sad. Tragic end to one hell of a wrestler and one of the greats that will never be emulated as far as I'm concerned. Never.
Now, on Wikipedia, guys, I don't know how true this is. Do you remember a wrestler named Rodney Mack and his wife Jazz from ECW?
I remember Jazz, yes.
Remember Jazz?
The last thing that he did was he trained Rodney Mack and Jazz. He trained them to wrestle. I never knew he was doing that. But on Wikipedia, that's what it says. I'm reading it right now off the Wikipedia page underneath death. And it's a shame. He was inducted by Ernie Ladd, class of 2004 WWE Hall of Fame.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I guess they used clips of that in that Dark Side of the Ring show. Ernie Ladd talking about him and all that.
Yeah.
Ernie must have been still alive at that period, of course.
Another guy that just does not get enough credit for what he did in the business was Ernie Ladd.
The big cat.
Big cat, baby.
Guy had to come along in the 80s and not been as old as he was, because that dude could talk a good game, look the part, and when he got in the ring, you got the hell out of the ring.
That's an example of another big guy who couldn't take the wear and tear from all the wrestling that he did over the years. Because I saw him when I was like 8 years old,
and
on my local syndicated WWF show. WWWF, I should say. The big cat, Ernie Ladd, was, I said, good Lord, look at the size of that man. He used to wrestle 2 or 3 guys all at one time. Andre the Giant style. He had him in a corner, and he hold the ropes and back into him. He was doing all the Andre shtick that Andre used to do. You remember that motor, don't you? You're an aficionado of all this old school stuff. You remember that?
Oh, yes.
I'm a little older than you, pal, so, you know.
I also remember something that Ernie Ladd had told King Kong Bundy at one time. Does anybody want to repeat?
Bundy, you dubbed yourself out of position. You're stealing money, Bundy.
You're stealing money, buddy. You dumbed yourself right out of position. And King Kong Bundy, years later in different shoot interviews and stuff like that, he actually said, when Ernie Ladd told me that, he goes, it really changed his course and the way he saw the wrestling business. You know, it really made him focus more on what he had to do and how to be that guy, be that team player guy in professional wrestling, you know, and know your role, start out, do your thing. And then as things progress and get better, then move on. But Bundy always said that, yeah, that was a defining moment in my career, because he actually thought about quitting. He was like, you know, I don't know, maybe I'm not cut out for this stuff. But then he thought about it more and went, nah, if that guy's telling me that, that's advice. That's advice I need to listen to, which most wrestlers nowadays don't listen to the old school advice. But
Don't get me started on that.
yeah, that's a touchy subject as well. But Bundy definitely heard Ernie Ladd, and hey, the rest is history. He went on and did his thing, and thank God Ernie Ladd said that to him.
Talking about advice and the current wrestling and all that, if you watch those old school matches, like I know we all do, we all watch these old school matches. Thank you, John Mark Saul, for sending them our way. The link aggregator, who just, I don't know where he finds this stuff, man. He must scour the interwebs nonstop, drinking Monster Energy drinks, just point, click. There's another one. I don't know how he does it, man, but he gets some good stuff. He gets some old school wrestling treasure. But less is more. These kids nowadays don't realize that. When you watch those old shows, even the way they were shot, not a million camera cuts. It wasn't high definition. That's why they have a million camera cuts nowadays. So you can't see the fist barely touching. You can't see the guy getting slipped a razor blade by the ref, unless you're an AEW director.
If you're
They just put
AEW,
all that on camera.
AEW can't.
But they even realized, WWE even realized, we have to shoot the shows different with high definition TV signals now. All these different camera cuts. And that's why they do that. But back in the day, a 2-camera shot, Don, you think?
Yeah, I mean, it was pretty much you had
camera?
the hard cam from the side, and you might have 2 ring cameras at the same time. But that was about all you can really remember seeing back then.
That's it. And everything was so subtle. Their mannerisms, their facial expressions, the way they stalled. They just didn't lock up right away or hit each other 100 miles an hour, unless you were the Road Warriors. They're the only guys that did that at the time. They ran down the Iron Man, jumped in, beat the shit out of the jobbers they were facing, and then he did a promo, and that was it. And you remembered those guys. But guys like Ernie Ladd would come to the ring, and everything's subtle, and he just beat you down, throw you in the corner, do the thing, crush you like Andre would. And what was his finishing move, Ernie Ladd? I forgot.
I don't remember. He had a few of them. Sometimes it would just be a simple body slam, which brings us back to, JYD, because, you touched on it earlier, Motorhead, and that's how we got on the Ernie Ladd discussion. But JYD was not the most polished guy to ever step in the ring. It looked like a fight. And even his power slam at the end of the match that won it, when he got you, it looked like he was looking to hurt you. Now, I'm thinking, obviously he took care of guys, but when he put you over, it wasn't like the pretty boy slam that you saw everywhere else. It looked like he was trying to slam you through the earth. And I loved everything about it. God rest in peace, JYD. We miss you very much. We wish you were still here today, brother.
Absolutely.
When he would slam a guy, wouldn't he go down with the guy as the last slam of the match and then pin him? Where he would hit with the guy and bounce up a little bit and then cover him? With thump right on his tights, in the back of his tights. Thump. Whatever that meant. You remember that, don't you, Motor?
Yes, sir. That was the
great
sound he made when he body slammed you, and then WWE, and then, WWF, even a little before that, when he'd get on the ring floor, and when you were down, he'd do the old headbutt on you just like a dog would do to something. And I found this out, too, that Junkyard Dog Sylvester Ritter actually worked at a wrecking yard. And so that's where he got the nickname Junkyard Dog from, was when he was working at a salvage yard back in the 70s.
So he also, if you talk to Howard Finkel, he had a big hit record with Grab Them Cakes.
Grab them cakes, baby. Grab them cakes.
Oh, my God. They used to play that. Although I did miss Another One Bites the Dust. I guess Vince didn't want to pay for the licensing money for that, so he
Yeah,
had them come. Jimmy Hart probably
think
came up
you're
and
right
grabbed
there.
them case. Yeah.
So I got a question for you guys. I got a 4 horseman discussion we can get into, or we can hurry up and get through the AEW bullshit that happened this week. What do you guys want?
While we're
Let's
going down memory lane, let's do the 4 Horsemen. We'll do that, Butter? What do you think?
agree.
All
Let's do the Horsemen and then get into the AEW shit eventually.
So we had
You're
a discussion.
You're a hard critic, pal. You're a hard critic.
We had a discussion this week in the SEM universe and some other people on Twitter before Elon Musk broke the damn thing yesterday about what was the best faction of the 4 horsemen. And we all got our own favorites, but I'm going to tell you mine right now. My favorite faction was the one with Barry Windham, Tully, Arn, and Ric Flair, and here's why. Arn Anderson and Ole Anderson looked and acted like the same guy, only Arn Anderson had a better promo than Ole did at that point in time. Arn Anderson looked the part of the grizzled. He was a young man, don't get me wrong. Arn Anderson has looked like he was 45 since he was 18 years old. He's always had that look. So he had the look of the old grizzled veteran, but he was a young man. You also had Tully, who played the part of a dirty-ass player that would do anything to beat you. Ric Flair was what was current. He was the current everything, the current champion, the current man's man. And Barry Windham looked like the future of the 4 horsemen. You had all of those together. When you had Ole and Arn Anderson on the same team of the 4 horsemen at the time, they looked like the same guy because they played the same part. It looked like you had 2 guys filling one role when only one of them was needed. The Lex Luger piece of it, I never bought because Lex was too pretty. Barry Windham was a big bastard, but he didn't have pretty boy muscles. He just looked like somebody that could beat the hell out of you and leave you laying in a puddle of piss. Lex Luger looked like the guy that was eating baked chicken every night, never had a drink, never flirted with the girls, and from what I heard, wouldn't even peel his own shrimp. He didn't look like a horseman because he wasn't a horseman. Barry Windham, Arn Anderson, Ric Flair, and Tully Vick. That is the 4 horsemen, ladies and gentlemen. That is the group. That's the best stable they ever did. Put it in the bank.
That's a lot.
Can't
of hate
agree
for
with
Lex
you
Luger.
there. Cannot agree with you on that one. That's also my favorite rendition of the 4 horsemen. And the addition with Barry, he was electric. To me, Barry Windham was an electric wrestler, for his size and his speed. And the man could work his ass off, and then put him there with Arn and Tully and Flair. And same thing. I love your comment about Arn Anderson looking like he was 40 years old since he was like 13 or 14. He did. He looked like that neighbor that worked at the lumber yard or something that, get home every day in the Ford pickup. And, he was kind of balding, had those glasses, but the man was yoked and solid. And like, man, I bet that guy could handle his own. He had that look about him. And the thing about Tully, too, Flair always says, hey, I'm one of the dirtiest players in the game. But, yeah, I think he got a lot of that also from Tully Blanchard, because Tully, man, some of the matches I used to see that guy do and how he'd win, he didn't care. He just wanted that victory. He wanted the victory and did whatever he had to do to get it. And then, of course, with J.J. Dillon, when he was the manager, I loved J.J. Dillon because he was a subtle smartass, if that makes sense. If you understood the gist of what he was saying sometimes when he was doing the interviews about the guys, he was very professional, but you always got that hint of, well, if you guys are going to come after my guys, you're not going to like it and you're going to pay the price.
You're right. Yeah,
Johnny, what was your favorite?
The 4 horsemen were the creme de la creme of wrestling factions, as far as I'm concerned. They were 4 men traveling the world, fighting to pay down alimony debt and massive bar tabs. That's what they were up to. And wherever they went, you knew there was going to be trouble, whether it was in real life or in a wrestling ring or just doing an interview. Every time they were doing an interview, you knew some shit was going to go down with the 4 horsemen, be it Flair, Tully, whoever, any components of those guys. But I would have to say the originals, for me, were the best. And I'll tell you why. Because, number one, Arn Anderson was a guy who's probably like 23 years old, who looked like he was 45, like you said, who could work. And he could talk when they let him talk. He would talk you into the arena. He'd tell you what he's going to do to you, how he's going to do it, and nobody better try anything. Nobody's got a chance against those 4 men. And then JJ would come in for the final word. Ole looked like the kind of crazy neighbor. He reminded me of Clint Eastwood of Gran Torino. Get off my lawn. You know what I'm talking about? That's what he would. That's what he reminded me of nowadays. Clint Eastwood in Gran Torino. Irascible, nasty. He even had the T-shirt, "Evil, Mean, and
Evil,
Nasty,"
mean, and nasty.
which you can get on Pro Wrestling. You can buy it on ProWrestlingTees.com. By the way, I've got one. But I just the Anderson, they call themselves the Anderson brothers at one point in time. Then just the Andersons. I'm going by the esteemed wrestling aficionado David Crockett, who was never exactly 100% on commentary. He called him at one point in time the Anderson brothers, then he called them the Andersons. But be that as it may, they come in, they work a body part, jobbers, or even jobbers to the stars like the Italian Stallion or Jim Powers. They work a guy over, beat the left arm down to nothing, to a pulp, and tag it in real quick, and that would be the end of that match. The other guy wouldn't even have a chance to tag in most days. Over and done with fast, and you knew those guys were badasses. Barrel-chested sons of bitches. Balding, bearded, barrel-chested sons of bitches were the Andersons. Ole and Arn. Tully was a smart-ass high school jock. That's what he reminded me of. He always got the girls. He was always the star quarterback. He was the guy. Although he never had a cup of coffee with the heavyweight championship. Always TV, Western States champion, if you remember that belt.
Oh, yeah.
Did they have a U.S. championship in Crockett?
Yeah, he had the U.S. title because he lost that to Magnum TA in the I Quit cage match.
Yes. Flair is Flair. What can you say about Flair? Just tremendous. His influence on this business is felt today. Every single decade, his influence is felt in this business. Not even just in the wrestling business. I'm talking football, baseball, all sports. They all remember Ric Flair. They all idolize Ric Flair. Even rappers. Ric Flair Drip was a big rap song by, I'm not a rap fan. I don't know. If anybody out there knows the name of that song, please, if anybody's actually watching this show.
Yeah, I've seen it.
Go ahead and send in, the name of the guy who did Ric Flair Drip, the name of the group.
Yeah.
But those 4 guys, and I'll tell you why those 4, because when you brought in Luger, that was the big pumped up jock that got there because they're looking for another Hulk Hogan. And you knew that. All the fans knew that. Then you had Barry Windham come in. Solid wrestler, but he left. Every time he got over, he left a territory. Every time he became famous, every time he got over, I don't know whether he got cold feet and left on his own or whether they pushed him out. But how can you push out a talent like Barry Windham unless he was missing dates? I don't have any info on that, anything to back it up with. But he left everywhere he got over. But he was a solid wrestler. I mean, look at this Offset. Look at that. Wait, hang on a second. Total Pole Nation. Offset from Migos and 21 Savage, both from Atlanta.
There we go.
Those are the guys that Ric Flair drew.
If you
and I
remember,
couldn't pick those 2 out of a lineup. I have no idea who they are.
The Barry Windham lineup, that was when Tully and Arn left for the WWF. They left first on that one. They're the ones that disbanded it the first time. They went and got paid, and then as they were coming back to WCW, they passed Ric Flair in the hallway as he was going in the door with the World Heavyweight Championship. So we could have had the 4 horsemen in the WWF. We were a mere 6 months away from it. And if that happens, if the WWF gets the 3 members of the 4 horsemen, who's the 4th member in WWF that would have made that unit?
It would have been a homegrown guy.
Of course it would.
I would say Mr. Perfect. Mr. Perfect would have been
the
the 4th
one.
guy in that lineup.
I like Mr. Perfect being in that group. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. Unless they're looking for a big, jacked up 7-foot freak of nature. And who did they have at the time?
You want to know who I
I'm
would
trying to.
add?
I'm trying to come up with a name.
Remember, if they go to the WWF and their stars pass, I think Shawn Michaels, as much as I can't stand him, would have fit right into that group.
Sean's asshole persona would have fit in perfectly with the Four Horsemen.
Yeah.
Perfectly. Just like when he did
Yeah.
DX, he would have been like, hey, right here, you know. The typical Shawn Michaels that we all know would have been. That's a good point. Very good point, Don.
And
Yeah.
he loved Ric
I'm
Flair.
gonna
He
go
loved
with
Ric
that.
Flair. Yeah.
And he loved Ric Flair.
And he loved Ric
Yeah.
Flair. And he idolized Flair. That's right. That's right. That's boy, that's I couldn't imagine seeing the Four Horsemen of WWF at the time. That
It
would have
been
really
wild, right?
it would
That's
have
a wild
it
thing
would
to
have
think
shaken up the
about,
tree, man.
And we
Yep.
almost had it.
If Tully Blanchard could have passed that drug test or didn't snort any coke that week, he would have the Four Horsemen in the WWF. And they shit-canned Arn by association. That's why Arn got launched. They were called the Brainbusters in the WWF,
Yes.
Tully and Arn. And Tully failed a drug test for cocaine. He tested positive. But I don't know whether he's on the Iron Sheik program. Oh, positive good. Positive good. Not like that at all. I think that if he would have passed that test, there would have been a Four Horsemen iteration, of course, in the WWF. They would have to have done that if Flair was there. What would they call them? The Four Horsemen? Don't know who held the copyright to that at the time, whether it was Crockett or whether or not Crockett registered or not with the Copyright Office, the Patent Office, who knows? But I'm sure Vince would have looked into it, and that would have been a money thing right there. But, Vince didn't like things that he didn't create himself. He had to put his own spin on everything. That's why those guys were the Brainbusters.
And personally, I never liked the name, the Brainbusters. I don't know why. When I saw them come out for the first time at WWF, and I'm like, hey, that's totally not Brainbusters. I'm like, I understand the movie. Yeah, was not a fan of that name. Yeah.
No.
That's a Tully sushi
Motor,
move.
you
It
got
was a
me
Brainbuster.
You got me thinking, both of you did. So you can't call them the Four Horsemen because of trademarks. So you know what you call them? You call them the Dixie Mafia.
The Dixie Mafia.
There you
They're in the north of New York with their southern titles, and they're taking it over. But no matter what your thought is of all of the Four Horsemen, I think we can all agree that the original incarnation from 5 to 88, when Tully and Arn left, that was the end of the Four Horsemen. Agreed?
Agreed.
Swig a beer from Paul Roma, pal.
That guy can suck my ass.
Paul Roma was in the Four Horsemen. He was. You know that. You watched it back then.
It's in the Rocky V file, Johnny Bottles. It never happened.
John,
that never happened.
You're killing me.
Never happened. What iteration was it? What was that? It was Paul Roma. It was Flair. It was Roma. It was
Rocky
Arn
V,
Anderson.
Rocky V. I don't remember it. I'm not dredging that shit up.
Sid? Was Sid in a Horseman?
Nope, not having it.
You know what's a good faction to talk about maybe next week? We should bring up classic faction, the Dangerous Alliance.
We will bring that up next week. We'll have that as a talking point.
Think about those guys. Anderson and Zbyszko as a tag team. Was Bobby Eaton in that?
Yeah, Bobby and Arn tag.
Yeah, Bobby Eaton was in that. Yeah.
Bobby Eaton was in that also. And Medusa was also in the Dangerous Alliance. She would come out with Rick Rude. Rick Rude was
the ravishing one, baby. Yes, sir.
What a group of talent. What a group of talent. And have Paul Lee as a mouthpiece. Good Lord almighty, man. You look at that now. You look at that and you think about 30 years later, what a wasted opportunity those guys had.
Complete waste.
How good they were.
Yeah.
But I guess Jim Herd was calling the shots, and he's the guy who wanted to have Ric Flair's hair cut off and be Spartacus. Was that the gimmick?
Spartacus!
Have him come out in gladiator armor with a shield and a sword? Jesus Christ. So, who's doing more drugs, management or the wrestlers themselves? That's what I'd like to know.
I'm going to ask Guy Evans that here in 2 weeks when we have him on the show, because I've got a lot of questions about that book. Got a lot of questions for Guy Evans.
We're going to grill Guy Evans?
The 8. What's that, sir?
Are we going to grill Guy Evans?
There's a lot of questions I have for him. We'll trust me. I got a few. We'll talk offline. I've got a few questions on that. So I watched AEW this week. I wasted 3 hours of my life that I'm never going to get back, and I'm pissed off about the whole thing. And it's going to start off with John goddamn Moxley in the ring with a 48-year-old Japanese wrestler that personally I've never seen nor care to see because I don't watch Japanese wrestling. I live in America. I watch what's currently on my TV. I'm not going to go finding and digging through the minutia that is YouTube and the internet to find every little detail I can about this guy. Tell me a story. I am your audience. Don't make me do my own research trying to figure out if I should care about this match or not. And if you watch the match, you'll see Moxley bled. Surprise! Said no one. And they stood there and did the dumbest chop bullshit sequence I've ever seen. And I said, okay, I don't know if I can dig into this much longer. Orange Cassidy came out and had his god-awful match where they had a comb spot, and I flipped off for 20 minutes. If you guys watched, you're better than me, but I couldn't stand it after the comb spot. I don't know if we're in greasers or in wrestling. Someone help me with what the hell I watched on Wednesday.
I'm gonna go ahead and agree with you right there, Don. I tried watching the entire thing, and I had to do it in pieces because they still do things now, and they've never stopped doing it. And as an old school wrestling fan, as a fan that grew up in the 70s, 80s, 90s watching wrestling, it's painful. It's painful to watch these matches materialize. There's no follow through. There's no storyline. It's just everybody gets out there and does their own little thing. And like you said, they bring people out that I had no idea who that other guy was. John Moxley was wrestling. And if that makes me a bad person, fine. I had no idea who he was. No idea whatsoever. And then Mox being Mox and doing what he always does in the ring, that was a big turnoff. But I did not watch all of it, Don. I watched as much as I could, and I'm in agreement with you 100% on that stuff. It's the words
It's
not.
awful.
It's awful. I can't even watch it. I can't even watch it. I can't do it. Nope, can't do it. Bottles. How about you?
Motor. I love it when Don goes off like this.
Yeah, me too.
Don.
Yeah, it's getting close. Ballistic time coming.
I miss you, Don. I'm trying to do the heart symbol, Don. I miss you, Don. These last 2 weeks. That was Tomohiro Ishii.
I took it
if you remember that
yesterday.
That was what's that? Tomohiro Ishii was the guy who wrestled John Moxley in that shit fest Wednesday night to open the show. And
how does Corny call his name?
Ishii. He walked to the ring like he had a dime bag from the Iron Sheik lodged in his taint. Walking to the ring.
Yes.
I'm thinking, this guy, what's he got? Arthritis in his, like, from the waist down? What the hell's going on with this guy? And it was a safe match they did. Just, you hit me, I'll hit you. You hit me, I'll hit you. You hit me, I'll hit you. That bullshit, trading forearms in the middle of the ring. I mean, if you're Gunther or Ric Flair swapping chops with another guy, that's something to see. John Moxley, it's like if you walked outside and pulled the cable TV repairman off his ladder and just started smacking him in his chest. That's the equivalent of it.
Uh-huh.
You know what I'm talking about, Motorhead?
Yes, I know exactly what you're talking about. Exactly. Clear picture.
I guess
clear picture, man.
Usually they have Orange Cassidy in the opening match all the time on AEW Dynamite. They change it up and had Moxley come out because I guess Moxley wants that bump of 900 and some thousand viewers left over from the Big Bang Theory and make it look like he actually did something for the first quarter hour or the first half hour of the show. And it fell off. Orange Cassidy came up. That whole thing with the what is it? The JAS? Yeah, the Jericho Appreciation Society. It's the shits. The thing with the comb, that show actually put me to sleep. I woke up and it's almost over. I said, How do we get here? I rewound it. It's back to where I was.
Why?
I'm sorry I rewound it.
Why?
I thought maybe I might have missed it.
Why?
You missed nothing. God was giving you a gift. He said, here, I don't want to punish you anymore.
Why are you such a hateful man? I'll be
And
the
then-
IWC on Twitter. Why are you such a hateful man, Don? Hate. Orange Cassidy is an up-and-coming star. He's the next Undertaker.
Shit.
Oh.
I don't know if you guys saw this or not.
No.
But this,
Someone said that. Someone said
Yeah,
that.
I
Remember?
know.
Someone said that online. You remember that? Yeah.
I
Did
know.
you see that 2 weeks ago? Yeah.
Yes, we did. Yes, we did.
Good
did you
Lord
guys
Almighty.
see
Wait,
Keith Lee,
he's-
though? Did you see Mr. All Natural, I'm going to go gray, Keith Lee, who has re-dyed his hair again?
Saw
Came
that.
out,
got rid of the
dyed to the max.
he got rid of the church choir robe. That's gone. That he used to
That
wear.
robe's gone, and
And,
he re-dyed his hair again.
And
Why?
he still can't move. Because he
Still
looked like
can't move for
shit.
shit.
He looked
Uh-huh.
terrible.
Uh-huh.
And these guys that get released from the WWE and everybody rags, how come he got released? I can't believe it. How come this guy got released? I hate to say it. Vince was right. Vince was right.
He was right the whole time. And as much as I, shit on Vince McMahon for some of the things he does, he nailed this. This
Yeah,
guy's
he
got
did.
no business at a professional rating TV. He's got no business on it. He moves like a sack of crap. He doesn't look good. He looks like he's almost quit working out at this point in time.
Yeah.
I don't know what happened. When he was in the WWE, he looked good. He moved well. He looked like he knew what was going on. And then something happened, and he's gone. So, whatever. He's here. And then the one match I did see was...
Hang on a second. Don. Hang on a second. I just want to interject with one last thing about Keith Lee. Keith Lee is a prime example of these guys online who complain about their heroes getting released from certain companies, and then they go into another company. Oh, this is great. They're going to be a game changer. He's going to be a champ, blah, blah, blah. And then he's misused over there. And if you're misused in one company and you're misused in another, you'll be misused in the next one that you're going to fall into, because we're not all privy to people's personalities off camera. Maybe, I'm just hypothetically speaking, maybe some of these guys are the biggest pains in the asses to work with. And they're pitched ideas. They don't want to do anything. They don't want to take any chances. They're totally uncooperative with management. Look at Lee. Gray hair. They covered up his bulk with that robe the choir robe when he walked down to the ring. Maybe someone finally told him, look, you got to dye your hair. Stop wearing the robe. You got to lose some weight, dude. You got to do something. He's only in tag matches now. Can you remember a singles match he was in last? I don't follow AEW that much.
Mm-hmm.
I can't. I'm sure. And when he was in NXT, he could move. Athletic.
Yeah.
Jump over the top
NXT,
rope.
he can move
Things
around.
like that.
Yeah, really well.
He was
really
also
well.
probably.
Everything now is a struggle.
Would you say he was 80 pounds or 100 pounds light? I wouldn't say 100. Would you say he was 70 to 80 pounds lighter in NXT?
Yeah, I'd say that's a
It's all
fair
that
assessment.
belly. He's got the
Absolutely.
junkyard dog
Yep.
belly. Yeah. So I mean,
I don't remember what the spot was. I can't remember who the little guy is in the Dork Order. What the hell is that guy's name? The small dude.
John Silver. John, the small bald guy, he looks like a miniature bodybuilder. Power lifter. It's John Silver.
Who
Now,
is
John
that
Silver
guy?
actually, dude, that's a jobber that they have in the Dark Order. And they're shamefully to say, they're all used as enhancement talent, the Dark Order is. But that guy actually shows some personality. If you could give him a gimmick or put him in a tag team with another guy, you'd actually have something there. If you break up the Dark
You're
Order
talking about
altogether,
the
that's what
small
they
guy.
should do.
You're talking
The
about
little
the
guy
real
with the bald
short guy
head.
that's like 5'5".
Yes.
I
But he
have
can
no
pick
use-
up a man that's 300 pounds and throw a ball around.
I have no
Huh?
use for that guy. None. I got no use for that guy, and here's why. I'm watching this horse shit go down. No, I'm watching this, and he trades a power shot with a man a foot taller than him. They exchange shoulder charges, and I instantly said, as soon as it happened, I'm done with this. I'm not watching another second. I found the remote. If you want to sell me on him being quicker, more athletic, or anything like that, I'll buy into it. I buy into Rey Mysterio because he's quicker, smaller, and faster. I'm not buying into a 5'5" power lifter who maybe weighs $180 on a good day, exchanging shoulder charges with a 220-pound man. Kiss my ass.
Put him with somebody
That's
his own
why you're a
size.
hateful man.
Maybe, but I'm not watching that garbage.
No.
You're a hateful man, Don Wayne. A hateful, hateful man. John Silver's just trying to make a buck. He's trying to keep a roof over his head.
Else's. He can make it
And
on
you're
somebody else's.
shitting all over him.
Nickel out of mine.
I hate to see. Okay, hang on. Before we go any further, what's your opinion on Evil Uno?
Are you
The guy wears the
I
mask in the dark one.
I have no opinion.
What'd you say?
No.
None.
Your opinion is so low of Evil Uno, you have no opinion.
The dude's nipples are the size of pepperoni slices. Porn stars are jealous.
I thought that was a different rendition of the Uno card game. When I first heard, I'm like, Evil Uno. I want to try playing that. What the? And then I found out.
I'm not playing that, son. No, sir.
Son, you're not going to play it either, are you? Yeah, I don't have anything to say about Evil Uno, except that when I did see him, I can't unsee it, and I don't care to see it again.
That's a guy who needs to wrestle with a shirt on all the time. Evil Uno.
Mm-hmm.
That's a guy that doesn't need to wrestle, is what that is.
That's true. He could just be the mouthpiece for the Dark Order, but they're just a fragmented group. Maybe it's 4 guys, 5 guys now. They split them all up.
Yep.
They had a guy named
I
Ken
don't
who wore a mask.
And
They
it
took his
keeps
mask
revolving. It's
off.
yep.
It's
So
the
I
shits.
did watch. I don't know about you guys, but I did watch a little bit of WWF. It's sort of been like the last few weeks on that show. The Monday Night Raw is a C+ show. The SmackDown is a C+ show. You know it's building to something. This Money in the Bank weekend that we had, I watched that yesterday at 3 o'clock. That's not what they're building to. It's just another build up to SummerSlam. We all know that's where the rubber's eventually going to meet the road. I thought they were C+ shows. Yesterday's show, it really didn't captivate me. The women's ladder match, I didn't particularly see that ending coming with Io Sky getting the briefcase. I don't know. I just don't see her in that spot right now. I like the ending with the two girls being Becky Lynch and Bailey being connected by handcuffs so they couldn't climb the ladder. I thought that was pretty creative.
That was
but
cool.
I also have a question. Where the hell were the other women in the match? They just disappeared off camera. And this is a problem that the WWF has all the time. They just disappear. I will say the bright spot of the entire show was John Cena's surprise appearance. I love that show.
Hey,
Agreed.
They took off that SmackDown the SmackDown Women's Championship match of Charlotte and Asuka.
Yeah, why is that?
Card
I didn't.
because of John Cena's segment on the show. It was all timed out. So I think they plugged in the Cena segment with Grayson Waller and took the Charlotte and Asuka match out. You know what they want to do? They're going to have Io Sky fight Asuka probably at SummerSlam for that championship belt she's got. 2 Japanese women who can go. Can you only imagine what that match is going to be like if they're both healthy? It's going to be phenomenal.
Did Charlotte and Asuka wrestle in the pre-match show? I don't know if they did or not. I didn't watch the pre-show.
No, they wouldn't put that on a pre-match show. Charlotte would never be on a pre-match show. No.
Motor, did you watch any of it?
Just bits and pieces.
You didn't miss anything, pal.
Once again, another show I try to get through. My whole thing with watching Raw and or SmackDown. I did watch parts of Money in the Bank, and I thought it was par for the course for WWE for their pay-per-view. It wasn't too terrible, but it wasn't memorable either. And there were some things. Just once again, I hate being a critic because every time I watch,
great comment you just made. That was a great comment you just made. It wasn't terrible.
Thank you, sir. It wasn't terrible. It's like the airplane trying to
Forgettable.
take off from one runway. It's like, shoot, go, and it keeps going. It doesn't quite reach where it needs to go. So
Right.
and the length still of Raw, it's too long. There's just too much. But the pay-per-view itself, it was all right. I watched most of it, but there were some things in there I would have changed. Dawn, you brought up something the other day when we were talking. I hope you would like to reiterate on about your MJF theory.
I'll get there. I got something for you. But
I can't wait to hear this.
The reason
Oh, you're
I
gonna like it, Bones. It's
the reason
good.
I asked about the Money in the Bank, because I thought the right guy won the briefcase with Damian Priest. I think that guy's time is coming here. He looks the part. He acts the part. He sounds like a man that would whoop your ass if you said something wrong to him. I know LA Knight's got a lot of push behind him, but I also don't think LA Knight has that briefcase to continue his storyline right now. Just me personally. I do feel like LA Knight's time is coming where he's going to probably get that IC strap. I see something like that coming, or maybe the U.S. title. I don't think he needs that briefcase to get to a place he needs to go. I think you've got to give Damian Priest that briefcase to put him to the next level, because right now, LA Knight, to me, he's already there. He's got the fan support. If the WWE writers and Vince don't see it, they're blind and they need to get their head out of their ass immediately.
Well, they had a media scrum after Money in the Bank.
I did not see that.
Was asked about it. And I believe he said, I didn't see it, but I just saw the quote. Good things happen to those who wait. So apparently there's a plan put on the side for LA Knight. And I think Austin Theory will lose that U.S. title to LA Knight. That's my theory.
It feels like that's
about
where
Theory.
it's going.
That's my theory about Theory.
So,
But you know what? The Money in the Bank pay-per-view, Motorhead summed it up. It wasn't, I'm paraphrasing you, it wasn't bad, it was just forgettable. They do a great job, that WWE does, in packaging shit. They do a great job in packaging a turd. So when it's presented to you, like it's a Christmas present, you're peeling the layers off. Oh, this is fantastic. What can this be? And when you finally get down to the center of it, well, it's a turd. But it was a good-looking turd. It was wrapped nicely. It doesn't stink, but it was still nevertheless a turd. And that's how they package their entertainment when it's a bad pay-per-view or premium live event, as they call it. The presentation of everything is just miles ahead of any other company out there. It really is. And the packaging, the promos, the way it looks, the way it's shot, the lighting, everything. It's fantastic. However, with all that pomp and circumstance, you'll find that there are lackluster matches. Like, let's see, Dominic Mysterio versus Cody Rhodes. Do we really need that at Money in the Bank?
No.
I know the program they got with Dominic right now is they want him to work with a variety of different people by himself and no tag matches. Hang on, my dog's doing a run-in. Hey, can we knock it off over here, you two?
So, but that's the thing.
Junkyard dogs running in on me right now.
That's kind of their thing. You're never going to get awful with them for the most part. You might get average or boring, but it's never going to be outright buffoonery like we get all the time with AEW. Speaking of which, Collision on AEW Saturday night, I watched, and I don't know about you guys, but the opening segment with people talking trash gets me hooked. Every time I've seen it that they've done that, I'm in the show for 30 minutes. I want to see what's going to happen. And then eventually it becomes an AEW show and I get lost. MJF had a squash match. I thought he was great. And then out came Ethan, somebody that I don't know. Help me out. Who the hell was that?
I don't know. Bottle.
The other
Ethan Page.
Okay, so I was up the right tree.
Another one of the pages.
Ethan Page is a heel. And all of a sudden he's a face. Ethan Page was actually, he's been a whole bunch. He's a guy that they have who looks good, who can work, but they don't know what to do with him. He can talk, but they don't know what to do with the guy. Young guy, great upside. If you have him on a consistent basis, a storyline. Heel face, heel face, heel face. He's turned more times than the Big Show did in WWF, WWE.
God.
Oh, wow.
It's just ridiculous. It's ridiculous. And if they want him to be a face, strap a rocket to his fucking ass and launch him. Have him on TV every single show being a face. Have him team with CM Punk when they're in Chicago. He'll be a face. That's what they should do. They don't know what to do. Someone said that AEW has pull a name out of a hat booking. You pull 2 names out and, we'll put these, that'll be a match. 2 more names out of the hat. Oh, what do you got? That's a match. That's how they do it. And you see that. Both of you guys see that. Everyone sees that, except for the 16, 17-year-old kids who are playing Fight Forever, the video game, in their parents' basement, who don't work, who are just smoking weed, watching AEW, think it's fantastic.
So I do have a question for you because I was talking about it earlier, and we all know what. And this is I'll leave on this one for the last part of it before we get to the books. And shout out to St. Pete Rejuvenate and CultivateWellness.com. Love you guys. Thanks for sponsoring the show. But the MJF Diamond Punch, right? We all know that's pretty much his finisher. And then he goes to whatever the submission is that he has or whatever he does, right? So the AEW audience hates him because he is a good wrestler and he's a champion. But if he wants to get nuclear heat after that Diamond Punch, you know what would get him over? An atomic leg drop via Hulk Hogan and the pin for the 1, 2, 3. You want to talk about getting heat? You bring back an 80s wrestling move that these AEW marks couldn't stand as a finisher. He would have nuclear heat boiling over. They would want to actually murder MJF. Diamond Punch, leg drop, 1, 2, 3. Tell me what you think.
Oh, I'm 100% with you right there, baby. You know, do the Diamond Punch, get against the ropes, do your thing, drop the atomic leg, get up there and start hearing the fans. And then pull one of the Hulkster freaking poses while he's in the middle of the ring when the fans are booing and going crazy and just fighting to try to get across the seats because they're so pissed off that he did something that emulates one of the greatest 80s wrestlers in general of all time. And, if I was a billionaire, I'd pay money. I would give MJF money to do that, just to get those fans pissed off.
What do you think, Bottles? Yep. I think it's nuclear heat if they do it in that crowd. That crowd would kill him.
Mm-hmm.
I think you're right. And he's very good at getting a good reaction from the crowd. Whether it's a boo or a cheer, he's very good at getting good reactions. I think what the AEW needs to do, it's obvious the Elite are not going to face CM Punk in a match with tag team partners of his choice. It's not going to happen. And why I can't believe they're that stubborn. Where they don't want to make money.
We know.
The ratings would go through the roof. And no one watches the Elite matches anyway. They watch Punk matches. They turn off Elite matches.
Look at the rating. They keep every time they're they go. Woo.
It's terrible. If you're not going to do that, go to CM Punk versus MJF. MJF for the belt. Why not? When he came back that first episode of Collision, he held up a bag.
Said, I never lost
bag.
it.
He said, guess what's in the bag, Max? That's the belt that he never lost is in the bag. But he never pulled it out. Never said that. That's a storyline waiting to happen. I don't know why they just don't do it. Why don't they just do that? Instead, they're doing this Adam Cole, MJF, opposites attract. Can they partner? Can they work together? That's a Vince McMahon thing. Have enemies be a tag team. Can they coexist? It's the worst. They're taking the worst shit from WWE and imitating it with that angle. And Adam Cole, there are high school cheerleaders that could beat up Adam Cole.
Yeah.
I don't know how you look at that guy and see the face of the company. I don't know how you do it. Vince saw him and said he's going to
World Order, that Dork Order guy. He's taller than him.
Yeah, he's taller than that guy. But he's not as muscular as that guy either.
Well, he's not, but he's at least taller. Shit, I can buy him a little.
Oh,
So tell me, Moto, what book you got for us this week, brother?
All right, today we have one of my favorite guys growing up, Dewey Robinson, also known as the Missing Link, right here. You can find this on Amazon. You can find it on WrestleBooks.com. Dewey Robertson wrote it with Meredith Renwick, and I learned a lot more about one of my favorite crazy wrestlers after reading this book. And it is a must read because of what his lifestyle was like while he was traveling around. I don't know if a lot of people know this, but Dewey Robertson was a nudist. So he liked hanging out. When he'd go and hang out and get his trailer and park and be in certain territories, he went nudist camps. Him and his wife both. And they like to be nude a lot, among other things. But great book, Bang Your Head, Arizona Press. It's on Amazon. Check it out, man. It's one of those reads that will always stick with you, just like the other ones.
Johnny,
All right,
what do you
Doc,
got
take
for
us
us,
home.
buddy?
what have I got?
Got any closing shots before we close up shop this week, Johnny?
I just think all I can say is WWF, WWE, just get going. Get going. Ramp things up. Speed things up a little bit. Let's see some good shows leading up to SummerSlam. What's the next pay-per-view, Don? Is it SummerSlam or Payback? When's
It's
this
SummerSlam, I believe.
SummerSlam?
I think so.
Let's have a great SummerSlam. It should be a little WrestleMania in the summer. That's what it should be. Let's see some great angles. Ramp that up. Whatever you're doing with Austin Theory, it's not working. Take the belt off of him. Give it to LA Knight.
Agreed.
That's
And
what they should do.
one last shout out to the brothers in the SCM. Thank you guys for hanging and following us and doing our thing. And at JK Roll Tide, hang out to you, brother. Hope everything's cool. And at Totem Pole Nation, Bonesaw, and our man, Coach Bald and Coach Taylor.
Appreciate it, guys.
Want to say one more thing about AEW.
Why?
You're a locker room. You're a wrestling company. You've got Arn Anderson working for you. You've got Jake the Snake Roberts working for you.
Allegedly.
Okay. He's at the bar right now drinking a nice cold glass of piss. Is that what you...
That's drinking piss.
Okay, before we go, you kept mentioning that on Twitter, that he drank his own urine.
Oh, yeah.
No. Where'd you get that from?
There are stories, and there are other stories out there. I have heard it on more than one podcast, and I have heard it from more than one wrestler, that when Jake the Snake was cracked out of his mind, he would drink his own urine. I have no respect for Jake the Snake. I think he's the ultimate carny. I think this entire I'm Redeemed act is just that. It's an act, and I don't care who he is or what he said about anybody else. To me, he is a snake oil salesman. I have no use for that piece of trash, and I don't care who he says he is now. He doesn't change the fact he treated so many people like shit.
You're a hateful, hateful man.
I love everybody.
I love it. Don, you love everybody. That's right, baby.
Don, I love it when you're hating on somebody. That warms the cockles of my heart.
SCM Nation, Total Pole, appreciate it, brothers. We're out of here. I hope Coach Taylor